Okay, hey guys, it's Jordan from Gamepad Productions, and today we're going to be checking out Unity. This is the first in a couple of tutorials where we check out a bunch of different software for the creation of games, being from Blender, all the way up until FL Studio, so creating music. We might even be looking at video editing itself, so you can make game trailers and whatnot. So we're just going to be doing a bunch of stuff that kind of helps you move along with creating your game. Obviously, we got to start off with the game engine itself, so making the game. So today we're going to start out with Unity. I'm currently using Unity 2017.1.0 F3. You don't have to use this version. This is the version I choose to use. I just have been using this version for a while, and they haven't really added anything substantial for me to actually upgrade. And also my project's in here, and so it's a bunch of different reasons for kind of having that. But today we're going to kind of mess around with the UI and kind of how to navigate Unity and how to deal with it and how to, go in and out of certain things. So once you open it up here, you're going to be asked to sign in and maybe create an account if you don't have an account. Do create an account for Unity. It's kind of mandatory, but also it helps with you if you want to buy stuff from the asset store and all those things that kind of help you go on the forums and ask questions. So it's very helpful to have this Unity account in case you're like, oh, I don't want to make an account for this thing. I just want to make a video game. It helps. So we're going to hit new. Once you get past all the sign in and everything screen, you hit new. We're going to name this project Shooty Space. This is actually the project that we're going to be using for the rest of the tutorials kind of moving forward within Unity. We're going to be making 3D models and everything for this. So we're going to hit create project. We're going to leave it in 3D because we're not going to do it in 2D. This project essentially is what we're going to try and make it a remake of Asteroids. So we're going to basically try and recreate Asteroids, but in this weird top-down 3D format. Again, we're not getting to that complex part yet. We're just messing around with the UI today. Normally, let me just set it back to how this is how it defaults in Unity. Personally, I don't like to use it this way. I have more than one screen. If you have more than one screen, I can I'll kind of run through the best way to have it set up, in my opinion, but a lot of this is very subjective. So for me, how I have my Unity set up normally, if you had just seen previously, is on my hierarchy. So this is kind of, this is where your game objects are. So if you expand this little tab here, this is where all your game objects are. So currently in the scene, we only have the camera. So this camera right here and the light, direction of light. So that's what's acting as the sun. All those objects in the scene will appear in your hierarchy. So your hierarchy kind of like people have it up there, people have it, all kinds of places. But for me, the easiest place is to have it down here. And then because I see a lot of my scene view, I like to drag this down here so I can see the maximum amount of space in my scene view. A lot of this stuff is kind of just extra in my opinion. If I'm making a level, and I want to see the level, not see the, the components there, and I can just click on them myself and figure out what they are afterwards. And this is your project. So this is kind of all the files containing, so all the textures, the music, or whatever you add to your game. It'll create an asset, basically like an asset folder for it. This is the asset folder, but it'll create a separate folder for a lot of the things. I mean, you can just have all your stuff kind of just splayed out in this asset thing, but that's not really very organizational friendly. So kind of how I like to have my assets set up is you hit right click on the assets right here in the project view, and you go to create, and then you hit folder. And I always create some for my scripts, and then I create another one for my textures. Normally this is named something else. It depending on if I'm making a 2D or a 3D game, I'll use name that like sprites or something. And then folder up here, we'll be naming it audio. These are the base. If you're doing a 3D game, I would have one for models and meshes. So we're probably gonna be adding one, later. But again, nothing's gonna be in those. We're not doing any of that today. So, but yeah, that's the project view. The console view is basically where all the all your bugs and stuff will happen. So let's say you're writing a script for a game, and you're you don't know if it's gonna work. Basically, if you hit play and you try and do the things you're trying to do, you'll get an error if it doesn't work, or nothing if it does. Granted, you can also write debug logs within scripting, so that let's say you're trying to move forward and for some reason not moving forward, you can make it so that when you hit W, before everything else happens, it goes debug.log hitting W, and then it'll pop up here. It'll say in the same white bubble, or you can have it in a yellow. You can set it in different levels of threat, but normally it's just in a white bubble, and it goes, okay, cool, yeah, you hit W, hitting W, and then it'll say that in here. Again, that's in the scripting. I'm just kind of explaining how these things work, so you have a general understanding of why they're all there. And then also, because we drag the hierarchy down from up there to down here, you can see a lot more. But within this little window cascade, you have the scene view, the game view, and the asset store. So the asset store, you can come in here, you can get all kinds of assets, so 3D models, again, audio, scripts, whatever you need to create your game. If you don't want to make it yourself, or you kind of like are pressed with time, you go to the asset store, pick something up real quickly, and then add it to your game or whatever. There are a lot of really good free assets. We'll be using one later on in our project called Pro Builder. It basically allows you to create 3D objects within Unity without having to go through Blender and stuff. So we'll be learning that, I think, 2 tutorials from now on the video 3. But yeah, so the scene view, within the scene view, you can navigate around the scene view. If you hold down right click within the scene view, you can basically look around. Like if you move your mouse around while holding right click, you can look around. You'll see this little eye pop up, and then you just aim around, you can look around, kind of like a normal FPS character if you play like any kind of shooters or anything. And then same thing with that, you can hit WASD like any other shooter again, and you can move around like you were, like an FPS character. Now, once you've moved around a bit, you can kind of see everything kind of translate, but it's hard to tell because all you see is this giant gray, grid. It's very ominous, and then you have skybox all around you. So a lot of people kind of look at that and go like, that's kind of it's kind of weird. But we'll definitely be adding stuff to the scene view so you can kind of see more about it later. And then we'll go through these tools right here. So the top left, you'll have your hand tool. If you hold on middle mouse button, it also selects the hand tool as well. Basically what this does is it allows you to go up and down without having to be holding on right click. The thing about that is that if you're building, like let's say like you're building a very tall building, if you hold on right click, you can look up and then I guess move upwards towards it and then look back down to kind of go up a window or so. Or you can hold down middle mouse button to go up and down the window without having to do that weird looking motion. Same thing with the move tool. So when you have, like, let's say the light selected in here, for example, like or you can select from down here as well, directional light. The move tool kind of creates these handle axes, or axis handle, sorry, where basically it allows you to move the thing on its third axis. So within 3D space, you have the X, Y, and Z when you want to move objects in 3D space. In the inspector, you can see it right here in the transform. You have the X, Y, and Z of all the objects. So if we were to use the move tool and move around this handle, you can see it being translated over here where it's being moved to, like in the 3D space. Also, if you want to rotate it, you can hit E. So these tools also correspond to your keyboard as well. Instead of just clicking them or using the middle mouse button for the first one, you can hit Q, which selects the hand tool, W selects the move tool, E selects the rotation tool, and R selects the scale tool. The rotation tool allows you to rotate objects. It's pretty self-explanatory. The thing about the sun is that you can only really tell if you look at the sky. So for Unity, they made it where the directional light, the one directional light in the scene, actually creates a little bit of a sun in the sky. So when you do rotate it, you can see the sun rotating. So it makes it really easy to do a day and night cycle without having to like add a sun to your thing. But yeah, so that's the rotation tool. You can rotate it on all the axes. You can see like you have the blue, the green, and the red. If you zoom really far out, you can kind of see that you have these much easier handles. It's also relational to how far your camera is from the object. If you're close, it gets really small, kind of hard to see. But if you're really far away, you can see it's really easy to see the handles and stuff like that. And then the scale tool, this doesn't really apply to this. You can't really tell the sun. The sun can't really get any bigger. But normally this makes an object bigger or smaller by, again, the Y, the X, and the Z. And you can see the figure still changing there, even though we're not doing anything. But yeah, so the inspector is the last thing that we're going to talk about. Basically, it just has all the scripts for each object. So for the main camera, you have the camera, GUI layer, the flare layer, the audio listener. The audio listener, well, again, like if you have a camera if you have multiple cameras that all have audio listeners, you'll actually get a bug, or like a thing in Unity that says that, oh, you have two cameras listening at the same time, which will may cause some problems when you're trying to do playback of audio. So watch out for that. That's something to watch out for as well. And then again, in the directional light, you have just the light source and stuff like that. We're not going to get into too much detail with this, but basically this is kind of the default Unity, like how I like to have my setup. Also, the one cool thing about these windows, before we go, is that you can actually drag these windows out and have them kind of just free in the area, which is what I mean by if you have two screens, you can take this game view and move it off to the side to your left or right screen, and it makes it really easy so that, like, let's say you're testing something like the way a 2D game looks and you want to be able to see it really quickly. One thing you could do is you could have it here, or you could have it off your screen and have it really in like the full scale that you want it to have it at. So if you wanted to have a really big, like let's say you're running like a 1080p monitor and you want to see the game in 1080p, you can see it pretty close to 1080p. I think it's like 1072 because they still have these, the black bar on the top of it. What did I just do here? Because you still have the, oh my god, that's weird. You still have the, it's so small. The black bars at the top here that actually take up some resolution space. Even if you have this like full screen, for example, we'll just do this right here. You have this full screen, you still have that, so it's not technically full screen. Also, within the game view, you can change your aspect ratio, so you can go from whatever free aspect, so however large the window is, to 16:9 or 16:10 or whatever basically you want it to have it set up to, and to have the scale of it as big or or small as you want it to be. But yeah, that basically concludes this tutorial. If you like the tutorial, please do subscribe and like the video. We'll be trying to upload these as quickly as possible. Not as quick as possible, maybe once or twice a week. That's kind of the goal. But yeah, if you have any questions or anything, just leave a comment. We'll definitely be here to help. And we'll be uploading the next one soon, hopefully. All right, thanks guys. Have a nice day.